I speak like I have a job in radio. This is Sad Times. My name is Kevin. I'm your host. For those of you who have not listened to Sad Times before, here's a quick primer. Sad Times is a show in which people come on. They tell stories about times that they went through really difficult periods of their lives, times that they were upset, sad, angry, and how they reacted to it and how the people around them reacted to it. And the goal here is not to diagnose or solve or even judge the problems. It's just to let the person tell their story so that you at home or in the car or wherever it is that you're listening to this are able to say, hey, I've gone through that too, and maybe feel a little bit less alone. We hope at Sad Times that by having these generous people with their stories come on, that people will feel a little less alone and then hopefully maybe open up and speak about stuff that they've been going through as well. So that's kind of the show. Before we get to our wonderful guest this week, looks like Brent got us another angry sponsor. So I'm just going to read what the sponsor is, the actual rules of gameplay for the board game Monopoly. Okay. All right. And the ad copy says, hey, prick, take that money out of the middle and maybe read the instructions for once in your fucking life. If you did, the game would go pretty quickly, and then maybe you could shut up about how long your games are taking. We tried to tell you. We fucking tried. Jesus. Yeah, Brent. Let's have a talk maybe off the air about the sponsors that you're getting.
Yeah,
They're just
they pay.
that. Hey, God damn it. We're not going to have the moral compass argument again, Brent. Okay. I'm sorry for anybody who had to hear Brent's voice. I did too. So anyway, moving on from the very angry sponsor, let's get to this week's wonderful guest. Her name is Sarah. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm so sorry about all the cursing and the Monopoly thing. I wasn't prepared for that. I just get handed this stuff right as I sit down by Brent. He never prepares anything for me. So I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. I mean, I've been known to curse a few times playing Monopoly. So.
Oh yeah, are you a Monopoly fan at all?
So I haven't actually played like the original Monopoly in a while, but I do really enjoy the Mario Monopoly version that I have been playing with my son. So.
Let me just say this: did you and your son have you seen the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Oh yeah, we went opening day.
Wasn't it wonderful? Or I liked it.
It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that your son is a Mario fan. I'm a huge Mario fan. It gave me all sorts of good feelings. I actually wrote a song about somebody that was a lot like that song that Bowser sings about Princess Peach. So that was nice. So, Sarah, you and I have known each other for coming up on 17 years now. We lived together in a crazy little house with former Sad Times guest and all-around poop face, Aaron, in 2006.
He doesn't have a poop face.
Oh, no, he just acts like it. 2006, 2007 in Richmond, Virginia. And we were on children's theater tours, and you and I did not talk a lot because we were loud and annoying, and you would be like, good Lord. And you would go back to your room and you would watch the brand new hit television sensation, Grey's Anatomy.
Which is still on air, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think that can just speak to its wonderfulness.
Wait, do you still watch that show?
You know what? I do. I'm committed.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch it until it goes off the air.
That show has lasted longer than a lot of marriages I know of. So,
oh, yeah.
I mean, goddamn.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to hear that somebody has to still be watching it if it's still on the air.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, so we lived together in that house.
I believe I was the only female in the house as well.
At that time you were.
Yeah.
And it's not like we were loud and obnoxious. I mean, we hosted a party called the Blissful Drinking Shit Fuck. That was a 5-day party over Thanksgiving. I think you were mercifully for you gone for that because it was Thanksgiving break. But you and I became friends more in the spring and summer.
Yes.
Let's just say a really kind thing about Sarah here, and we're probably going to talk about it some more later. I reconnected with Sarah, year and a half ago, and Sarah has just continued to reach out and offer some of the expertise that she has in a lot of fields, and I just have to call out you're just intense is not the right word. Your immense, thank you, immense kindness. You're such a kind and thoughtful person. So I look forward to hearing your story today.
Oh, thank you so much. I look forward to sharing it.
Awesome. So, well, let's start with the saddest of all days, Christmas Eve.
Right.
Now, you and I, we spoke about this a little bit before, but tell us what was going on kind of with you leading up to Christmas Eve and kind of what happened on Christmas Eve because of that. Of 2020, yeah. Let's be clear. Sorry.
Yeah.
Of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that year makes, 2020. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody knows what happened in 2020. We don't have to, go into that. I thankfully wasn't dealing with any kind of COVID related issues. But around October of 2020, I was diagnosed with the UTI. And obviously very common for women. But I was pretty stubborn in the fact that I didn't want to just go and get antibiotics, because I was like, no, I can fix this on my own. Taking like oregano oil capsules and
oregano
cranberry
oil
juice
capsules.
Yeah, oregano oil is like a natural
diuretic.
I don't know. It's like it kills the bacteria, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what Google told me,
mm-hmm.
Right? Dr. Google.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing, all of these, like natural ways to get rid of this, and I thought I had succeeded because I was feeling much better.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have any symptoms, so I was like, yes, I did this without having to go to the doctor to get antibiotics.
This section of the show paid for by Big Oregano.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I had, successfully cured myself. And kind of fast forward. So that was October. Fast forward to like beginning of December. I was at a neighbor's their child's birthday party, and I was just like, wasn't feeling good. Like I just kind of felt like I had like a low grade fever.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like around like December 8th, I want to say. And so I was like, okay, I came home, went to bed, got some sleep, and just kind of felt better in the morning, so didn't really think anything of it. And then so continued on a couple more weeks, and it's now December 23rd, and we're making Christmas cookies. I had all of my friends over and their kids, and we're all making Christmas cookies together. And I just don't feel good. Like I have this pain in kind of the left lower side of my back. That's not like sharp or anything. It's just kind of there. And
a dull ache, maybe?
Dull ache, constant would be the words I would use to describe that feeling. And I was just like, what is going on? I just didn't have like a lot of energy. And yeah, so it was just like, okay, like this is just weird. So go to bed that night, wake up on Christmas Eve, and I have a fever. And
do you still have that pain in your side as well?
I still have the pain in my side. And then I also now kind of have more of the pain with the urination, like classic UTI symptom. So I'm like, oh shit. So of course, Christmas Eve can't really get into my primary doctor, and it's at, of course, height of COVID. So all of the urgent cares are completely booked.
With as much as we didn't really know about COVID at that time, were you also afraid that you might have COVID and because you had the fever?
I was never afraid of COVID.
No?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I was never afraid of that. No.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I don't know why. I just was like, I was never, yeah, I was just never, I didn't think that I had it, and I wasn't scared about getting it. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so I did go to urgent care. My husband and my son were on their way out the door to like play this community neighborhood like flag football game on
Oh,
Christmas Eve. So I had to miss that, unfortunately. And I went and drove myself to urgent care and got there, and the lady's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like a 3 hour wait." And I'm like, "Oh,
wow.
great." So I was like, "Well, can I at least wait in my car?"
Hmm.
She's like, "Yeah, sure. Wait in your car. That's better for us. Better, And this is still like people still, I'm in Florida, by the way. So,
I'm sorry.
just so people know. Yeah, I'm in Florida. And so, people obviously were still like coming in to the urgent care, without masks or,
Hmm.
with the mask, and it wasn't, properly worn or whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, I just like, I was following like, just good health rules or whatever. So I had, my mask on. So I was like, well, at least if I can wait in my car, I don't have to, wear this thing. And so she's like, yeah, wait in your car. So I fill out the paperwork. I go waiting in my car, and my husband, luckily was able to get me a teledoc appointment while I'm waiting in the car. So I'm talking with this guy, and he's like, it sounds like, um, the UTI has maybe spread to the kidney.
Oh.
He's like, I really recommend you go to the ER because you need antibiotics through an IV so that they get into your blood like immediately. And I was like, no, can't you just prescribe me some oral antibiotics?
Yeah. I
Because,
mean, Christmas
at
Eve,
this point,
you're,
I'm like, yeah, okay, now I'll take the antibiotics.
yeah, right. Yeah. Now, okay. This part not paid for by Big Oregano. But it's Christmas Eve. You're already missing the flag football game, which, by the way, I hope that when your husband, which what a wonderful thing and kind thing for him to do to get that telehealth visit. But I'm afraid that when he was getting that telehealth visit, some little 8-year-old community kid got sacked in the flag football game because he didn't block appropriately. But now you call him and you say, we have to go to the ER on Christmas Eve.
No, so I still wasn't there
Oh,
yet. I
okay.
was still being kind of stubborn. I was like, no, I will take the oral antibiotics now, but I don't want to go to the ER. So he's like, okay, I'll prescribe you the oral antibiotics, but just so you know, my recommendation is that you do go to the ER. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, all right, I will go fill this prescription. I'm going to take the oral antibiotics. And if I don't feel good, in a couple of hours, then I will go to the ER. So I get home, and I'm like, I am not feeling good at this point. Like, I feel like death. I have a fever. I have no energy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take these oral antibiotics, and I'm going to lay down for like an hour and just see how I feel after. And so I wake, I don't really even sleep just because I just feel like total shit. And so
Mhm.
I'm just like laying there in bed, and I just start to feel a way that I've never felt in my entire life. And I can't really explain it other than the fact that I knew I needed to get to the hospital. It was like my intuition was like, motherfucker, I don't know how many more signs you need from us, but you need to go to the hospital. And so I finally listened, and I came out and I told my husband, I'm like, we need to go right now. Like,
Wow.
we need to go to the ER right now. And I was like, and if you can't drive me there right now, then we need to call 911, and I need to get an ambulance and go.
Oh my God. What was his
um,
reaction to that? He must have been terrified.
he was super terrified. Yeah. Yeah, he probably has like some definite like some trauma from that experience that I probably need to clear for him at this
Huh.
point.
Well, he could
But
email
yeah,
sadtimeskc@gmail.com and be a
yeah,
guest on the show.
yes, yes. So we had we have like the best neighbors, and so we sent our son over to our neighbor's house. They were watching him, and this is like Christmas Eve, mind you. This is like when families are like just together, it's not like, oh, can Bennett come over for a play date, type of thing. But
Hmm.
they were great, and they watched him, and we went to the ER, and we got there, and I was just, when we got there, I couldn't even walk. They had to, they had to bring out a wheelchair, and of course, everyone's thinking that I do have COVID, right? Because that's what everyone
Right.
who's coming into the ER with, and and I'm like, I know I definitely don't have COVID. I didn't know what it was,
Could have had
but
that rare kidney COVID.
right, yeah, the kidney kind.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get all checked in the ER, and that's that's a I'm just like sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. I can just like feel myself just, I don't know. It was just like I just knew that I needed some sort of like, I guess I just knew that I needed to get an IV, like to be hooked up to an IV to get these antibiotics going, because like I just kept feeling like worse and worse and worse and worse.
Was it like an
And so,
overwhelming weakness along with the pain?
yeah. And I think it was just like also scared. I was so scared because the only time I've been in the hospital in my entire life was when I did deliver my son.
Okay.
And so been,
Wow.
I've never been into the hospital. I've never had anything health wise like really wrong with me. So I was just like, I just didn't know what was going on because I never felt that way. So I was already, looking back, of course, now I know this, like I was in a stress response. I was in fight or flight,
Ah,
and
yes.
so it was just like, I just knew that, it just, it wasn't gonna turn out well for me
But
if I didn't get if I didn't get in there like quickly.
so, well, with COVID, with everything, with it being Christmas Eve, how long did it take you to get back and, start getting seen and treated?
Um, I can't, I can't say for sure, but I want to say it was probably about an hour,
Okay.
which doesn't sound too bad, but
It's plenty long if you are
it
feeling the
was
way that you're
long enough
feeling.
for me.
Yeah.
It was way, way long for me. Yeah, so we get back there, and of course the nurses, like they see people come in with like, their legs cut off, and like, they're like, bleeding all over the place. So like me, I get back, and they're just like, oh, can you go, pee in this cup so we can get a sample? And I'm just like, what are you like asking me to do right now? Like I can't even like stand up on my own.
Yeah.
And of course they're just like, oh yeah, just go pee in the cup. So yeah, so anyway, I don't know how, but I willed myself out of the wheelchair to do that, and then came back, and they were like, okay, we'll have that sample back from the lab soon, and we're gonna go ahead and I don't know if they started the IV right away or if they had to wait for the sample. I honestly don't remember. It's
Okay.
like kind of all blurry. But anyway, I did get hooked up to, um, to the IV with the antibiotics finally, and started to feel much better, like immediately. Um, so that was good. And then of course, the big thing was like, okay, am I going to have to stay in the ER overnight? Um, and miss Christmas morning,
Yeah.
with my son. He was 6 at the time.
Oh God, he
Um,
was only 6.
yeah.
Oh, how do you tell him I'm not feeling well. I have to go to the doctor real fast. Like when you drop him off at the neighbors, I'm sure that was just a painfully, awfully hard conversation to have.
Yeah, I didn't have it with him. It was my husband.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I was just like, I just remember telling him we got to go now, and I got in the car and I just sat there because I had no energy to do anything else. So he was the one, my husband was the one that was like, okay, like, we're going to go over here. It was just our next door neighbor too. So it was right across, like just right beside of us. So I wasn't the one that had that conversation, but I think that he was fine with it because like, he's just like, oh, cool. I get to go play like at a friend's house. Like, I don't think he really knew the severity of it.
Yeah, whenever I want Brent to leave me alone, I just tell him to go play at a friend's house, and he stops asking questions.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it works really good.
You were starting. So now, one other quick question: was your husband able to come back with you, or were the COVID restrictions such that he could not be back there with you?
Yeah, no. This was Florida, so he was able to come back.
Sorry, my fault. I forgot about that. Okay, so at least you had him back there, and
at
you
least
get
I had him back there.
The IV antibiotics, and it's really starting to. You're feeling better.
We're just like chilling out. We're just like waiting, and the doctor comes in, and he like, has me sit up, and he like taps, the spot on my back, like my lower back. He's like tap tap tap, and I'm like, oh my god, that fucking hurts. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, that's your kidney. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Don't do that again or I'm going to punch you. And he's like, yeah, it looks like you have a kidney infection. So the UTI, the UTI, I guess, I think what happened is the best that I can, figure it out looking back on it is that I didn't really get rid of it. The original UTI back in October, and the bacteria, I think I got rid of some of it, but I didn't get rid of all of it. And so I think the bacteria then just kind of was inside of me, for a couple of months, just like growing and growing and growing. And then of course it like moved from, the bladder or urinary tract into like up into the kidney. So that's kind of what happened. And so, so we're just kind of sitting there, and the doctor's super nice. Like I really did, like, I'm grateful that I did have this doctor. Like he was very, very, kind and, like was like very good at explaining things that were going on. So I appreciated that. And he's like, yeah, I think we're going to be able to get you out of here. We just like, I think they had to give me like 2 rounds of IV. So we had to wait for that. And then he was like, of course they did they took blood and did all of these things. And, anyway, long story short, they did end up discharging me.
That on Christmas Eve?
On Christmas Eve. Yeah.
Did he hit your kidney anymore?
No.
Okay. That's good.
He did not.
That's good.
Thank God. So they did end up discharging me. And we went home. It was probably like, I don't know, 8:00 at night. So we were home, we got our son, and I just went straight to bed. Like, I think I said hi to him, my son. And then I was like, okay, go to bed. Santa's coming, all this stuff.
Did you say there was no room in the inn and that's why you were back home? Sorry, I've been working hard to get that one in there.
Oh my goodness.
And I bet he was like, okay, oh mom, so good to see you. Oh God, Santa's coming. Okay, yep, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, he is again still, I think that's what it was, looking back, the silver lining was he was so distracted by Christmas and by, Santa coming and by the presents that he didn't, I don't think he really knew how bad I was feeling.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for, because I don't want him to,
right.
Or I wouldn't have wanted him to know, all of it. So, like he went to bed. I didn't sleep. I was still in a lot of pain, even though I was feeling a whole lot better. And so it's now Christmas Day, and I get a call from the hospital that I need to come back.
Come back to the hospital?
Yeah, they were like, Ms. Hansen, we got your results from your blood test. You need to come back in for more antibiotics, is what they said on the voicemail. They just said, like, you need to come back in for more antibiotics. And I'm
But
like,
they didn't.
oh, great.
I mean, obviously, more antibiotics suggest further infection, but they didn't specify why you needed to come in that day on the voicemail.
No.
Gotcha.
No, it was like, and it wasn't any kind of like, you need to get here now. There was no urgency in it. Like, it was just like, you need to come back, for more antibiotics. And I'm like, okay. So we were able to do Christmas morning.
You're a fucking trooper.
Yeah. I was just like sitting there on the couch. I was just like trying to like, I'm like, okay, like we don't do like a whole lot of Christmas presents for him. And so I'm glad, like, I didn't have to sit there for like, too long.
Was there any,
open everything?
Was any of his gift, was it a kidney shaped stress ball by any chance?
No, but we did get him a mini trampoline, one of those mini, mini trampolines that year. And he was like, Mommy, come jump on it with me. And I was like, Mommy can't do that right now. Oh. I was like, let me see you jump on it.
Yeah, you show me how to do it. And maybe in 3 to 7 days, I will also join you. So you were able to have your Christmas morning, which is great. You went back in
Christmas morning
to the ER that day.
So now my husband and my son drive me to the hospital again and kind of drop me off. And like it was just like the weirdest thing. Like they drop me off, I get out and I'm like, waving to them and they're like, okay, see you in a few hours. And I'm like, okay. And so I go in and I'm like, hey, I'm here for some more antibiotics. I got this voicemail, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, okay. And they start like checking me in and they're like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and admit you.
What?
And I was like, wait, no.
I'm not missing Boxing Day.
Just here for the more antibiotic part. Like, I don't know what what you think I'm here for. And they're like, no, we have to admit you.
Why?
The infection's in your blood.
Holy shit.
I was septic at that point.
Now, now my sister is not a doctor, but I do know that septic is not good. Yes.
And I didn't know how not good it was until like they basically had to like explain it to me.
Okay. And so basically, layman's terms, being septic means you could die.
Yes. Sepsis is when the infection gets into your bloodstream. And so obviously then it's just being carried out throughout your whole body.
Oh God.
And yeah, and it's not good. And lots of like it, a lot of people, unfortunately don't make it, when that happens because, it's, it's just like, when it gets in your bloodstream and it's in your whole body, then, I mean, there's not a lot that the doctors can do.
Right.
So again, I still wasn't getting all of this. I was just like, no. And they're like, no, we're admitting you. And I was just like, okay. And so I call, like, I get back, of course they can't like, get me to my room right away. So they put me in another part of the ER, I guess like the part where it's like you have two different parts of the ER, like, just like the normal part. And then it's the part where they're going to like, then put you into the real hospital.
It's like you're stuck in processing.
Right. Yes, exactly. I was being processed. So while all of that's going on, of course, all the doctors are gonna, they're like, oh, you gotta, run a CT and, they're doing like all of these other things. And I'm like, this is unnecessary, because I'm still just like not getting it.
Right.
I'm just like I look back now and I'm like, wow, you were very, very stubborn and adamant that.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, it sounds like you might have been, but I would have been probably the same way if I didn't fully understand what was happening and I've been taken away from my family on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, and I'm being told that I have to stay here through Boxing Day at least.
Yes, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. So did they finally explain to you the severity of the situation?
They did. They finally did. And, the doctor was just like, based on your numbers, like your lab results and everything that I'm looking at on paper, I don't understand how you're up, like being able to like kind of walk around, because I was walking around at that point. He's like, you shouldn't be like this.
That's not something
like,
you want to hear.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, I'm really healthy, and that's all I can
Yeah. By the way, I brought some oregano.
Yeah. I'm like a really healthy person. Except for this whole sepsis thing that I have going on, apparently.
Right.
Other than that, I'm great. So he's like, we have to like treat you. So I call my husband and I'm like,
hey,
how's
the trampoline?
Coming home in a couple hours.
Oh, Jesus.
Gotta stay in the hospital for a couple days. And he's like, of course, freaking out. And so like, I totally miss Christmas. I got to see the presents being open
now,
but I mean, I miss Christmas. We had gotten, steaks. We were grilling out steaks for dinner that night.
Oh, that sounds nice.
My husband had to like grill his one steak.
Oh God!
It was like
all alone.
Just because my son, he won't eat like anything that we eat. He's a really picky eater. But
hey, I was too.
So he's like, he's eating Christmas dinner by himself.
Oh God! So I don't mean to call your credibility into question here, Sarah, but just be honest with me, because I haven't read the book. Is this the plot to Skipping Christmas by John Grisham?
I mean, if you had that desire, this would probably be a good way to go about doing it.
Obviously, no, I'm just kidding. So your poor husband, your poor son, they spend Christmas night alone. How long were you in the hospital?
So I was admitted on the 25th, and then I was discharged on the 28th.
Wow. 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, what started out as a pretty routine medical issue that a lot of people struggle with, unfortunately, moved to your kidney and got worse. And thankfully, you were able to get in and get the antibiotics, and then go back and then get treated for that very serious septic condition. I think that had to, and we're going to come back to that in a moment about how that, I can't imagine how that would change one's perspective. But, one of the things that I've taken away from this first part of the story is that you are such a, it seems to me just a kind, committed mom. Let's just go through it here. You're making Christmas cookies. There was a flag football game. You had a trampoline for your son. You were able to be there on Christmas morning so that he could have a normal Christmas morning. So this is a huge credit to you, because I complain about Christmas and I think I have a kidney infection. I just hate Christmas. So... But it's clear then that you probably had a pretty strong motherly presence when you were young as well, with your mom. Now, and so kudos to you for all that you were able to do with this very real life-threatening situation.
Thank you.
But I know that when you were young, you did lose your mom. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, she passed away before my 10th birthday. So I was 9.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
How, I mean, if you care to share, like how do you have siblings?
Yes. So
okay.
I have 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
We're all 2 years apart. I'm just like, that was, I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
Right. Well,
apparently they did. Apparently my parents did. But yeah, so we're all 2 years apart. I'm in the middle. And she passed away September 28th of 93. And then my birthday's in October. My birthday's October 25th. So it was right before my 10th birthday.
Wow. So now you are left as one of 3, and your dad is kind of, he has 3 kids, 2 years apart.
Yeah.
So 11, 9, and 7 approximately. And
right.
like the the emotional trauma, I just cannot begin to understand. How did it affect your family?
Yeah, it was hard. And, at the time, obviously, I didn't understand it like I do now. But yeah, I mean, we went through a lot of challenging times. Just my dad was just doing the best that he could,
Sure.
um, grieving, and having
Yeah.
this loss. And um, I think we were just all doing the best that we could. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard. It was hard being the only girl
God,
in
yeah.
the house.
And the middle child, right?
Yeah, and the middle child. And I looked so much like my mom. Like, I have her hair, I have her, complexion. Like, out of all of us, like, I looked like my mom. So people would, I feel like whenever they would see me, they would just get, like, they would see her. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So it was like I felt like I was a constant reminder of the fact that she wasn't here anymore.
did you feel a
Um,
weird sense of guilt about that?
um,
Or,
I don't feel like I ever felt guilt.
okay, that's
No.
good.
Yeah.
So your
But
dad is,
I knew I did have a very, like, I remember having an awareness that when people would look at me, they would see her.
that guilt or no, that is, that's pretty heavy awareness for a 9, 10, 11, 12 year old,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, so your dad is raising the three of you, and then um, you guys obviously went through extremely challenging times. I mean, the strength your father had to have alone just to raise three kids after losing his spouse is to me monumental. And then he met your stepmom, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so it was just the four of us for a short time. Well, not a short time, I think it was 4 years.
Hmm.
But yeah, so he did end up meeting somebody and remarrying. And that all happened when I was 14, in the throes of puberty and hormones and all the,
Were
all the
you
fun.
resistant at first to
At
having
first,
her?
I was really excited.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I was like, "Oh, finally!" And because she had a daughter, and I mean, she was obviously much younger. Her daughter was 3 at the time, so we were like 10 years apart, basically. But yeah, I was just like excited that there was going to be like a female presence and then the family again. Um, so yeah, I was excited. But as all families, that go through, either any kind of like death or divorce or anything like that, um, we had, it was then a whole new set of challenges, with her and her daughter being there and being, in the family now, because obviously things are different. And but by now we're all teenagers, and so it was just
Oh boy.
it was hard. It was a whole new different set of challenges, and hard times.
But having her there, did that help you? Did it help guide you as a family unit to maybe seek different types of support that maybe you hadn't had yet?
Yeah, I think so. I I don't really remember a lot of like my teenage years. Like, so basically, like, he remarried when I was 14. So I was in 8th grade. So I only really had 4 years of school left, and then I
Mm,
left for college.
okay.
Um and so yeah, I just like I just remember, um like, it kind of just felt like she would like helped my dad come back to life a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which was good. Um And so like things for me, I felt like improved, but then obviously there was just like still a lot of just like family dynamics that were still challenging, like with my brothers and
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, to this day now, you have a great relationship with your dad. And obviously you, as we talked about at the beginning, you had a pretty crazy life-changing experience right around on Christmas of 2020. So what kind of tell us about a couple months after that and kind of what you how it kind of changed some other stuff in your life as well.
Yeah. So after I got out of the hospital and 2021 came about, I met a friend. She was my friend, and we kind of met up one day, and she was just like, do you want to go jewelry shopping? And I'm not a big jewelry person at all. But I was like, oh, well, okay, I'll just like come and then we can like go have lunch afterwards or whatever. I just wanted to like hang out with her and see her. And I was like, okay, so we're in the jewelry shop and we're just like, I'm just like looking at all this jewelry. and I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what are we here for or whatever? And she was like, oh, we're not here for anything. I'm just manifesting some new jewelry.
Wait.
And I was like,
she's just
you're what?
Manifesting?
Yeah.
Is that like the Netflix show?
I don't know if maybe.
Oh.
Do they have a manifest? I don't.
There was a show called Manifest. It was like Lost on a Plane. I've never seen it, so yeah. I apologize
if not like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Brent has 3 manifest tattoos. Like... Okay, so she says she's manifesting, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I've never really heard of that term before at all. And she was like, I'm just like, I'm just like putting myself, in this energy and, in this situation, to normalize it, for myself. And she's like, it's basically just like a game. That's what she said. She says a game. And I was like, oh, and I was like, well, I want to play. Because I'm like, I like games. And like now hindsight, knowing like my human design is innocence. And so I'm very much like any kind of game play, like childlike wonder is like me. That's who I am. So yeah, so I was like, I want to play. I want to manifest things. And she was like, okay, cool. And like, so she was like talking to me more about it. And so I was like, okay, like what can I manifest? Like, what do I want?
What briefly, how did she explain it kind of briefly, just like in a 2-sentence, 3-sentence way? Like what is manifesting as you understood it at the time?
I mean, basically just that. She was like, it's just a game and it's a mindset thing. And you just, and this is very like, I understand manifestation very, very differently now, but like, it's basically like, just like, really setting an intention of like what you want, and then obviously like law of attraction, like attracting what you want. Basically is how she explained it.
Can you manifest for like things to go away? Like if I manifested, do you think Brent would leave?
No, I'll tell you why.
Why?
That's focusing on what you don't want. You don't want him there. So that's correct. Negation. Yeah. So you need to, a better way to do it was like your intention would be, I intend to be alone. I desire to be alone or by myself.
So it's like, I love that it's the positive, really basic way to say it, but it's a positive. It's not like I need this to stop. It's I want this to start.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So you it's like a game. You learn more about it.
Game. Yeah, I learn a little bit more about it, and I'm like, okay, what do I want? What do I want in my life? And at the time, I wanted a new car.
Did you try going on The Price is Right?
No, that would have been one way to do it.
Okay, just asking. Just asking.
Yeah. And you win a new car.
Oh man, talk about it. All right, so you wanted a new car. Tell us more.
I wanted a new car. I didn't need a new car. That's the other thing about manifesting is like you manifest the best when you're coming from a place of desire and not need. So I didn't need a new car. My car was fine, but I just wanted a new car because the one that I had a Nissan Rogue, and it was just like really loud. The engine was super loud. There was this like rattling. I could not for the life of me like ever figure out where it was coming from. But it was just like there was a constant rattling, and I'm just like annoyed by that. I'm annoyed by any kind of like rattling when I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's rattling, and I was like, okay, I got it. I want a new car. And again, so this is 2021. This is during the height or kind of like the start of the new car shortage because of obviously because of COVID and like some sort of like chip or I don't really even remember what it was, but like there were like hardly any new cars to be had because of because of this like electronic chip that was obviously in shortage because of COVID. But I'm like, I'm going to get a new car. So I kind of narrowed it down between the Kia Telluride and the Hyundai Palisade.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember going on my way to look at the Kia. We stopped by Chick-fil-A. I'm with my son. I think it's like it was a day off of school. I forget which holiday it was.
Well, it certainly wasn't a Sunday.
Yeah, no, it was, right? It was definitely not a Sunday.
Yeah.
So, so I'm in the Chick-fil-A parking lot. We'd just gotten our food and we're backing out of the parking spot, and I just like it's just like crash, and I just like you hear. Have you been in a car accident before?
Unfortunately, I have. Yes.
Yeah, there. It's that sound. It's like there's no other sound like that, and you just like when you hear it, you just know immediately what it is. And
right.
So,
were you and your son okay?
Yes, we were
good.
fine. This was like it was basically like I was backing out of the parking spot. This minivan was backing out of his parking spot, and we just kind of ran into each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is like on my way to look at this new car, and my car gets hit, and I'm just like, wow, that's kind of like what is going on here? Like that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call my husband, and I'm like, hey, I just get hit in the Chick-fil-A parking lot.
Can you just leave this poor guy alone for like 2 minutes?
I'm like always just like calling him. Like, hey.
Yeah.
we are happily married. We're getting ready to celebrate our 12th.
I didn't mean to imply that. I was just joking. This guy is so nice, and you just keep telling him horrible things. At least during this Sad Times episode. Right.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of wonderful things that I often tell him.
Congratulations on coming up on 12 years, by the way. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I'm like, I really still want to go look at this Kia. And he was like, okay. He's like, but don't let him see your car. And I was like, okay. So we go and we look at the Kia, and I test drive it. And right off the bat, one of the features that she tells me about is the backup camera. And how great it is because it like apparently has all these sensors that like let you know like if something's coming, from oncoming traffic or like whatever. And I was like, well, that sure as shit would have been nice to have about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, Kia.
Yeah. So I test drive it. I really like it. And then I noticed, like, we're talking afterwards, and I noticed on the sticker price, there's like a markup. It's like marked up from the MSRP, $10,000. And I was like, oh, like, what? Yeah, $10,000 markup. And I
that
was
sounds like
what?
a pretty good backup camera.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And I was like, what's this about? And she was like, oh, she's like, that's just the car's just really in high demand, and there's not a lot of them. So I forget. I wish I could remember like the word that she used, like what it was, because it was basically just like, we're just screwing you, but it was like a
Was the
nice
word
way to
fuck?
say that.
Was the word fuck
Yeah,
you?
yeah, it's they're like, fuck you over.
Yeah.
And she was like, I just remember her asking me, "Are you okay with that?" And I was just like, no, I am not okay with that."
Right.
I was like, I'm not paying $10,000 over MSRP for something that's gonna depreciate as soon as I drive it off the lot. Like, that's
Exactly.
insane. Like, I'm not definitely not doing that. So yeah, so I kind of leave there, and so that kind of like, because she tells me that all the Kia dealerships are doing this, right? She's like, well, everybody's doing it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not getting a Kia. So, so I just remember, driving and like calling, all of the, Hyundai dealerships to see, if they had the Palisade that I wanted, because I wanted the limited edition, or the limited trim, white with beige interior. That's what I wanted. That was what, this is what I was manifesting.
Yep.
And so every dealership that I call, they're like, no, we don't have any, or we have a SE version, or a black. And I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Got to be white. This is what I want. So I call this one dealership, and they're like, actually, let me make a few phone calls, because we have a boat coming in with some on it, and like, let me just like check. And I was like, okay. And I literally said to him, like, if it's meant to be, then it'll be. And the guy's name was Mike. I still remember. I was like, all right, Mike. I was like, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And he calls me back like 5 minutes later. He's like, okay, Miss Hanson, we do have a white Hyundai Palisade, limited, the limited trim, with a beige interior. It'll be here in like 4 weeks. It's on its way. It's on the boat now.
Wow.
And I was like, that's amazing. I was like, perfect. Because in my mind, I'm thinking I still have to get my car fixed, my Nissan.
Uh-huh.
The back
Yeah.
of it's like, whatever. So yeah, so it's all like, I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, it's all working out. And I go down to like test drive, just another Palisade, obviously not the one that I got, but I test drive it, and the guy is like super nice. And I just remember asking him the very first question. I was like, are you marking up the price of this car? I was like, because I don't want to pay over MSRP.
Right.
And he was like, no, ma'am, we won't be marking up the price. We don't believe in doing that, to our customers. And I was like, awesome. I was like, thank you so much. I really appreciate
Dude,
that.
I'm on team Mike. Mike seems like a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Yes. And so, yeah, so I get my car fixed. They do a
Mm-hmm.
great job. And we go down there, and they're like, okay, everything's going so smoothly. And he's like, okay, we're just gonna run Carfax on your car, on my Nissan. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I was like, I really hope that accident's not on there. And then they come back, and he's like, Miss Hanson, have you been in a car accident recently? And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, it was just like this little, rear end thing in a parking lot. And he's like, really? He's like, that's not what the Carfax is saying. He's like saying that it was totaled. And I'm like, what? I was like, no, that's not right. And so, like, of course I show him the pictures from the accident. And I'm like, this is what it was. Like,
Right.
how can I dispute this? And he's like, oh, okay, no big deal. It's like, sometimes this happens. They enter in wrong information. I don't even know how.
I
How
think
they
that
get.
Car Fox did it.
Yeah, it was that fucking Fox.
Fuck that Fox, man.
Yeah,
He can go work for Kia.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, it all worked out. They ended up giving us more than what we even had planned on, for my Nissan. Even though it had been in an accident, they gave us more because they needed used cars, right? Because there were
Sure.
no new cars, so everybody was buying used cars. So they needed used cars, so they gave us an amazing amount of money for my Nissan. I got my Palisade. It was brand new, fresh off the boat. It was just perfect. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, I am down with this whole manifesting thing. And so, yeah, I've just been like doing that ever since. And now, like, I just manifest like daily, like just like small things. It's so funny. Now my husband knows that anytime we go somewhere, I'm obviously going to manifest like the best parking spot. Because like I manifest parking spots like all the time. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, it'll just happen. Like we'll pull in and the lot will be like completely full, like say at a restaurant or something. And I'll just be like, okay, just wait. And like, we'll wait for like 3 seconds and then a car will back out.
Man. Well,
And yeah.
so let me ask you another thing that you mentioned earlier, just in passing. You mentioned human design.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Tell me just a real quick, what is that? What do you mean by that?
Okay. So anybody who's listening, you can run your human design chart. If you go, and you can do this for free, you can go to like myhumandesign.com or like Genetic Matrix or Jovian Archive. There's like if you just Google human design, like it'll pop up where you can get your chart, and you basically just enter in your birth time, your birth, where the location, the city and state, and the date, obviously. Okay, so yeah, so your birthday, your birth time, and the location. And
How exact does your
on,
birth time need to be? Does it need to be like
I mean, the more exact, the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, so human design is just like basically an energetic blueprint of of how you're meant to like energetically be in the world. Like it's a great um self-discovery tool. That's kind of how I use it. Because it really helps you understand, your unique energy, how you best make decisions, like how you get things done. And then like you can go like super, super deep into it, just, because it's kind of like astrology where, it's got like, planets and certain gates, and obviously those mean certain things. And so it's just a tool.
Yeah.
It's just a tool to help you learn more about yourself.
It-
And yeah, so I've been studying that for like 2.5 years now, and it's literally changed my life. Just knowing like what I am, and knowing like what my husband and my son are, and I can like I help my clients, like I run their charts and I help them. Um, you know, so it's a really, really incredible tool.
Awesome. Yeah, and you said clients. I want to close by just telling a little story about last summer. I was in the middle of kind of packing up my house in Tennessee to move back here to Chicago, and you and I had spoken a little bit on Facebook, the messenger thing, and you were kind enough to offer me basically a class over Zoom of basically deep breathing. Is that
breath work?
Breath work. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And I didn't know what to expect. But then you got me crying. So it was like I was watching the end of Terms of Endearment. Not really. I didn't cry that hard, but it was a really wonderful experience to just be present in the moment and work on that. So is there anything else you want to say about that type of work or anything before, we go?
Gosh, I feel like that could just be like
Or we
part
can
two.
it could be a part two, or we could put links and stuff too in the show notes that we can have in there for anybody who's interested.
Yeah. So I ended up getting certified as a breathwork facilitator. So yeah, I do breathwork with my clients, which is an amazing way to just kind of get into the body.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, people always say, like, oh, I can't meditate. I can't shut the voice off in my head, long enough to like meditate, but that's actually not the point of meditation. But breath work is like meditation for active people, or people that have active minds who think they can't meditate, because you're literally just breathing, which obviously everyone can do. I haven't met a person who couldn't breathe. And you're just allowing yourself to just kind of drop in to the body and feel whatever you need to feel at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah. And, in going into it, there were some similarities to what you and I did on that call to some of the stuff that I did way back in the day when studying voice and movement and theater and stuff, with the breath work and all of that. So, so Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm so happy that this is not a joke, that you were able to come through that horrible Christmas experience. And, as I said before, you just show what a sterling mom you are. And that is just a tribute to how amazing your mother must have been. Is there anything else one last thing that you would like to impart on anybody before we close?
Yeah, I would just like to say, because obviously we all have sad times. We've all experienced that in our lives, every single person on this planet. And I truly believe that you don't have the problem without the solution already being there. Like, it's almost like the solution is created first, and the problem is only there so that you can find the solution.
Gotcha.
And for me, with these specific sad times that we talked about today, they were sad, but there's also been a lot of gifts that have come out of them. And I think that if you're able to look for those, that it can just be a very empowering experience. You can turn, the sadness can be turned into the gift. So
I think that's great. And I think that's really, really is really poetic. Really, it's really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. And, you're right. Everybody has sad times, all of us, except for maybe Brent, because he doesn't have to hang out with Brent. But anyway, anybody who is listening to this and is interested in coming on, I said it very briefly earlier, please email sadtimeskc, that's K as in king, C as in cat, @gmail.com. And we can let you know how it works and have you on. And of course, please follow and subscribe wherever you do get the podcast. And if you feel like writing a 5-star review, I won't stop you. I'd appreciate it. So check out Sad Times wherever you get your podcasts, because you already are. You're listening to this. And I'll end with the same thing I always end with, is just remember that there is always room for kindness and grace, no matter the situation. And it might be most beneficial to remember that when you are dealing with yourself, and being kind and giving yourself a little more grace than maybe you would, it goes a long way. So just remember, there's always room for kindness and grace. Thank you so much for listening to Sad Times, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to A Fourth Hand Joint.